This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so thanks once again, everyone, for joining on a Sunday morning. And just to give a quick introduction, my name is Adam, and basically I'm a technical architect by profession, and I'm also a trainer by passion. So, what is this session about? I know there are a different set of people over here. So, what we'll do is, first couple of minutes, I'll help you understand in terms of what is that an organization is looking at in DevOps, and as of now, what are the different roles that is available in DevOps, and in that, what are the different activities that you might be doing, and what are the tools or processes that you would be using. Okay, so by saying this, I don't want to talk once again about the basics of what is DevOps, because there's plenty of contents out there. For those again who are quite new, I would suggest to go back to my channel and have a look and understand what is DevOps. So that way, we'll focus more into understanding what is the current trend in DevOps and where do you fit in, and for changing your profile from a different role that you have now, how do you switch yourself into DevOps is what we are going to focus. Now, before we start, when we say an organization, right? So there'll be many departments, but let us, broadly divide these organizations department into two groups. Now, I'm not considering all the non-technical, so I'm focusing more into the technical group. So in an organization, you would have a group or a department called engineering. Now, there will be different name, but ideally most of the organization would follow this. So engineering group or a department is one who will be primarily responsible for developing a product or testing a product and releasing a product, right? So that could be an existing product or a new product, or you are going to do some bug fixes or enhancement. So this is where there will be a lot of people involved to get the product developed, test, and released. And in this, people like developers or programmers will be part of it. You will be having all the entire QA team, performance team in it. And to support all this activity, there will be program managers, release managers, or build engineers, right, or configuration engineers. So those kind of people who mainly focus in developing, testing, and releasing the product will be part of this group. And on the other side, we would have the organization, part when divided into another big department or a group called operations. So under the operations, if you see, you will have all kinds of admins working, because again, there might be smaller classification, but I'm just broadly classifying into operations, where you would be having system administrator, you would have network administrator, storage administrator, database administrator, WebLogic administrators. Okay, so all of them will be part of the admin team. However, in the operations, there will also be a lot of support which will happen. So when I say support, it could be a deployment support in terms of staging or production, or you might be doing a application support, right? Or it could be some kind of a monitoring team which focuses and interacts with the customer. So that way, again, all these things will be part of the operations group or the department. Now, for an organization, now because of the market changes which is happening and the requirements coming into the market, now an organization has to make sure how quickly they will be delivering their product or their services to the market, and also to make sure that that service, whatever they are being delivering it to the customer, is also highly available. Now, for all these activities, or for a goal like this, which is what we call it as continuous delivery, now there will be a lot of challenges which an organization will be going through, and within the departments that we are talking about, the engineering and the operation, there will be different challenges that has to be fixed. So this is where, for doing a continuous delivery of your product and service, Now, it's not just any one of them have to work, but ideally all the group members have to work together. So this is how, first, as of now, we need to understand that the goal that we have is an organization goal, which is nothing but continuous delivery. So when we say continuous delivery, it is not just focusing that, okay, I am a developer and if I write a code, my work is done. I have delivered. Or I am QA, I just quickly tested, my work is done. Or I'm an operation person, I've just maintained some machine or administering application, it is fine. Now, so far, this is what we were doing. But as the requirements are changing rapidly and the market requirements is also changing rapidly, we have to focus that it is not as an individual or as a team we are going to focus on the delivery, but we have to set our delivery to that of an organization. So this is where now all of us have to work together and try to focus on how is that the continuous delivery will happen. So now, for an organization to do this continuous delivery and cost optimization in each and every task that they are doing, so they have to first focus on automating all the work, right? Now, whether you are as part of your engineering group or as part of your operation group, you would be required to automate each and every activity that you are doing so that all the manual tasks will be eliminated and it will be giving you a lot of time, which is going to directly help you in doing a continuous delivery. But this is where what we need to understand is the concept of automation is not something new. We have been doing it from a long time. But what is that DevOps talks about? So DevOps says that don't work in silos, which is where DevOps is not about a tool. It's more about a culture in which all of us have to focus towards a single goal, which is the organization goal called continuous delivery. And in that, when we have to think about automating, it is not just one's responsibility to automate, but it also has to be a collaborative effort with various groups. For example, if I want my product to be tested faster, now it is not just that QA has to focus on testing it faster or developer to complete his work faster, but for doing the testing and development, you need to make sure deployments are done faster. But for doing the deployments, you also need an infrastructure which has to be managed and it has to be created faster. So this is where to achieve a single goal, automation doesn't mean that you will be working or focusing on only one of the area, but you will also be focusing on automating couple of things which would be on the engineering as well as on the operation side. Okay, so this is how for an organization to get to the continuous delivery goal, they have to focus on how can you do automation in which there will be a collaborative effort where the work which is needed on the engineering plus the work needed on the operation both has to be collaborated together and we automate, and through this we will be able to achieve the continuous delivery of an organization. So such a culture where an organization wants each and every one of us to get into is what we call it as DevOps. So very clearly, DevOps is not about tools. It is more about collaborating with different stakeholders or different groups and trying to create a solution which helps in automating most of the activity, reduces the time and improves the quality, and obviously there will be a lot of cost saving. So such kind of culture is what we call it as DevOps. Now, by saying this, the next question that we need to understand is, okay, now I might be part of an engineering group or I might be part of an operation group. Now, how do you convert myself into a person who is working in the culture of DevOps? Because honestly, there is nothing called as a DevOps engineer because there is no one person who can do everything. Okay, but it is more about in addition to your current responsibilities, whatever you're taking, how many more things can you take and automate? So which is where you might be part of the engineering group where your primary focus will be to automate the development needs, QA needs, or deployment needs, or release needs. But for that, whatever is the infrastructure requirement or configuration of those infrastructure requirement, you should also be thinking about it. The same way, if you are more focused into the operations group so far, you should also see how is that you can extend the work that you're doing, which will be able, or you can help the dev and the QA team to do the releases faster. So from that way, for different kind of problems that we have in DevOps, for each of the problem area, there are different kinds of best practices which says using which you will be able to solve a problem. So in that way, if we have a problem on how do we improve the quality of development and how do we make sure that we do development faster, then there is a best practice called continuous development. And if we have to make sure that my testing is faster, then we introduce a concept called CI, or continuous integration. But if I also have to make sure that my delivery is faster, then we need to introduce more concepts of continuous deployment. But for this, if I have to make sure that I will be able to quickly create my infrastructure, and that is where there's a best practice called infrastructure as a code. Or forget about the infrastructure for a minute. Now, there is already an infrastructure available, but how do you make sure that you can configure it depending on your requirement based on a development or a testing need? Then there is a concept or a best practice called configuration as code. So this is how, for different problems within the workflow of an SDLC, DevOps gives us different best practices using which you will be able to solve. Now let us talk about it a little later. But before that, the actual question that would come is, okay, so you are saying DevOps is all about, try to solve the problem by working together, or it is not just about automating, but it is about collaborating with different stakeholders and trying to provide a automation which can be solving both the engineering and the operation requirement. So such a kind of responsibility is what we call it as DevOps. So for this, what and all do we have to learn? Because if we focus on the engineering side, for the development and testing and release to automate it, there are a lot of tools, which is where most of the CI/CD tools and processes will come. But when we talk about the operations, we are talking about the data center. So we are talking about the whole servers and support, or the complete infrastructure that you're going to have in your organization, which is where cloud comes into the picture. So then the question again comes now is, okay, now what should I start learning? Should I start learning the tools in terms of CI/CD or the processes on how releases will be faster? Or should I be starting with the operation side where there are cloud like AWS or Azure? Should I start with it? Right? Because now the first thing we need to understand is, for a company, all of them is needed. But this is where, based on different needs of organization, that is, some organization need help in only improving the problems on the engineering, or they need help in a problem to overcome in the operations, or they might also need people who can work collaboratively between the problems on the engineering and operation. So this is where in DevOps, it's all about combination of solving different problems, because in DevOps, there are like 8 to 9 best practices, which covers all the problems in the engineering and operation. But depending on the team or the particular problem area that we have in our organization, the roles in DevOps might be changing. Okay. So this is where, if you look into this, in any organization, in terms of DevOps, if you are being hired or you're joining a company and you're trying to solve a problem, then this is where the roles will be broadly classified. Now, look at this, you can understand that from the left extreme to the mid, people would be focusing completely on solving or automating the engineering related problem, that is completely towards development, towards QA, and towards deployment and release. And suppose if an organization is focusing towards operations management or managing the data center, so this is where, to the extreme right, we would be focusing on more into cloud. Okay, so that is where, regardless of whether it is AWS or Azure, you would be focusing towards more of cloud. So in a scale, if you see, so it starts from left corner, where here you would focus on project management, and if you move a little right, you will focus little deeper into solving the development and QA work. But if you come to the middle, it's a combination, because there are some companies where they would ask you to support in CI/CD in terms of how dev and QA can be done faster. And the same way, they will also ask you to take care of some operation activity in the cloud, just like how you are doing a support work in an organization, or like a technical support team. So you kind of take care of application automation plus some kind of system automation, right? The same way now, everything will be on the cloud. So in that way, nowadays organizations are focusing as cloud ops, where you might be asked somewhere around 50% to focus on the tooling, and there would be some 40 to 50% on working on the cloud operations. But as it moves towards complete right, you can see you will be focusing more towards cloud and lesser towards the tooling in terms of CI/CD. So this is where, when you focus into SRE, so their focus will be like more into the infrastructure management, but supporting it, whatever is needed in the tooling, they would be doing. So that way, this profile has like 50 to 60% of infrastructure management, and the remaining 40% or so will be on the tooling which is needed. But if you move completely into a cloud administrator, this is where your work will be like maximum 70 or 80% will be completely on the administration. So by saying this, we need to first understand now which side of the DevOps do you want to fit in, because different company needs different requirements, and for that these roles will be changing. But the only difference is the percentage of the work or the tools that you will be using will be different. For example, if I say a tool like Git, it is something which everyone will be using. Now, if I say cloud, like AWS or Azure, now it is the infrastructure. Whatever work you are doing, everyone will be using. But what is the amount or the percentage of administration of these will vary, right? So this is where, if you focus towards the left, so the tooling would be heavy, whereas on the right, it will be more about the cloud. So if you join as an SRE or as a cloud administration, then the organization expectation would be you will be working in the organization or the team to solve the data center related problems, wherein it is expected that you are an expert in the administration of the cloud. However, if you come towards the left extreme and you join any of this profile, then the organization expectation is that you are very good in terms of the tooling which is needed for the development and testing. But as it goes a balance in all of them, all the tools will be used, because this is where, like I said, it's a collaboration effort. It is not just that you will use one tool and fit, because for an automation, there are a lot of tools that we have to combine, which will be solving problems on different areas or different sides of the departments. Okay. Now, this is how we need to understand where do you fit in. So for people who are more as system admins currently and you want to get into DevOps, then you should focus into getting up and certification, or picking up a cloud first and then getting into the certification. And slowly you should be focusing more towards additionally learning what are the latest tools and processes available in DevOps in addition to your cloud. So this is how you will be able to match various profiles. And for rest of the people where you are not into administration, but you are into any kind of development or testing or support work, or a non-administrator or an administrator who is not focusing on the system, then you would be focusing more towards learning the processes which is needed for the tooling side of development or testing improvement. Plus, you should also be knowing the tools or the processes which is needed to work on cloud. So this is how it is a combination of all these things organizations will check for a profile. So that's where when you go out and look a profile, you will see that there will be all the tools mentioned in all the profile, and there will be a topic about cloud everywhere. But the difference is what is the amount of knowledge or hands-on that they are expecting, that will be different. Okay, so which is where you need to understand which side that you want to start. So either you can start from left extreme and move towards right extreme, or you can stop it here, or you can start from the right extreme and move towards left extreme. But this is where, as the companies are looking into more and more automation, everything is coming to a stable position called as cloud ops, wherein in cloud ops you should be ready to solve the problem in the engineering side, as well as you should be familiar with operating the cloud and managing the cloud. But however, you need to know where to start and how do we move. Okay, so this is how the roles have been defined. But now the next question comes is, okay, you're talking about roles and processes. Now, what are those best practices that we have to learn, right? Now, this is where in DevOps, there are around 8 or typically 9 best practices, wherein each one of them gives a solution to a particular group of people. So if we talk about how do we improve the development activity so that for any kind of new changes, there should be a parallel development happening, then there are concepts and processes called continuous development. So this completely tells each and every one on how to write a code and how do you collaborate the code so that you can do the development faster and hand it over to the next set of people who are nothing but QA engineers. However, now when we talk about continuous development, again, not just continuous development, in each and every area, there are some specific tools available. So mainly when we talk about continuous development, so we talk about the best practices like agile methodology and using a version controlling system like Git or GitLab or Bitbucket. Okay. Now, it is not sufficient that we just do the development. So the next problem that we have is, how do I give it to QA? So that is where you need to go through another process called continuous integration, where whatever the developer completes, you're going to immediately take the code, integrate it, and hand it over to the QA so that either you can do a manual testing or you can also automate it and do a continuous testing. But for that, how quickly can you do all this process, which is where we call it as continuous integration. But continuous integration doesn't stop only by doing a build or just, whenever a developer does some change or a check-in, you just take it and create a artifact. But it is also necessary that in all this process, we will ensure security in each and every part of it. So that is where right from the point where developer writes code, we will be doing a security implementation, which is where we will be going through certain processes called SAST or DAST. Okay, static application testing or dynamic application testing. But if not, most of you would have heard things like SonarQube, code coverage, right? This is what we call it as SAST, and that has to happen as part of your continuous integration. So here there will be a lot of tools like Jenkins or GitLab, again GitLab pipeline or Jenkins pipeline, and then for SAST you might be using certain code coverage tools, or you might be also using certain tools like SonarQube for analysis. And in addition, you will also be doing a vulnerability scanning. So there are pretty much different types of tools available. So all these things put together is what we call it as continuous integration. Now, what is the result of continuous integration? You are going to generate an artifact which will be like a jar or a var, but is it not something easy that I take and deploy? So this is where, in order to make sure that it is easy for deploying these products or artifacts, now the next concept comes is, which is containerization. So for us, it is not sufficient only to generate the product, but we also have to make sure that how do we containerize it, which is nothing but how do we create a Docker image based on the application, which is when we also need to understand, depending on the type of application, how is that you are going to do the containerization and generate a Docker image, which can be executed any machine and you will get your application running as a container. But for this, we need to know how to generate the image, but it's not about the image. because once again, the security is also part of your DevOps. So just like how you are going to do a scanning and a vulnerability check of your code, we also have to ensure that the images that we are generating is also secure. Okay, so which is where every image that we create also goes through scanning, and there are pretty much a lot of tools available to do that scanning. So all those things is part of containerization. Okay, so now we developed and we generated the product, and we also created an image which can be deployed. But what happens is, if I have to deploy, it is not like a development environment where I will take one machine and I will create a container. Now, this is where you should always think to a production grade. And any changes that you need should be dynamic, right? It should not be like I'll be waiting and creating the infrastructure. So that is where, for either your development work or for setting up the automation in CI/CD or for containerization, whatever the infrastructure that you need, you should be able to create it immediately, right? So that is when all the things are working side by side, the automation of the infrastructure should also happen simultaneously, which is where the infrastructure can be on AWS or Azure or also on a private cloud. So regardless of that, it should be an easier method on how do we automate, which is where infrastructure as a code comes in. So pretty much if you are using AWS, then CloudFormation is the concept of IAC. But if not, the other popular tool that we have is Terraform, where using Terraform, you can create your complete infrastructure. Once again, when I say infrastructure, it is not just creating a machine. So you need to know how do you create your network. You need to know how do you create your policies in terms of subnets, security groups. Okay, and beyond security groups, there also be something like database, user policies, everything put together is what we call it as infrastructure as a code. Okay, so now once you have the infrastructure automated, the next thing is the deployment orchestration. Now, what do you mean by deployment orchestration? So you said that, okay, I cannot deploy my jar or a var. So to make it easy, you will take container. But if you go to a production grade, it is not one containers you would need. You might need multiple containers. So all this cannot run in one machine. So you need to know that there are multiple machines needed to run. So how are you going to automate the whole process of the orchestration? Which is where in the latest side, we have Kubernetes coming into the picture. So this is where now for us to deploy our application, it is not just needed with only Docker image, but you also need to automate the infrastructure creation, and you need to ensure that you have a cluster in which you can do the deployment. Okay, fine. Now, when we were thinking that, okay, everything is completed, but then comes the point of GitOps. So what exactly is GitOps now? So let's assume you have a Kubernetes cluster created. Now, it is not one cluster, because for QA you might need, for dev you might need one, for performance you might need, for stage you might need a separate cluster, and production you might need a different cluster. So how are you going to deploy? Now, basically, most of the people would either say, or what you would have seen is, you will use some tool like Jenkins, which will do a SSH to the master, and it will run some command like kubectl. But ideally, this mechanism is what we call it as push mechanism. And this will not hold good for a production grade. Why? Because there will be a lot of clusters, and managing the permissions, which will be critical for us. So this is where, as we are moving through, everything should be more in terms of some configuration files, where GitOps is a concept which tells, rather than doing a push mechanism, do a pull mechanism. So what do you mean by pull? Now, rather than me doing a SSH to some machine and running some command, there are a lot of tools which are available, which will check for some configuration files, and based on any change in the configuration file, automatically it will deploy. So for example, whatever the configuration or the manifest that I need for my Kubernetes, I can write all those YAML into a Git repository, and I can ask a tool to monitor. So that is where whenever you do some changes to those Kubernetes manifest file, automatically the tool will deploy into the particular cluster. So which is what we call it as pull mechanism. So like this, it is not just your deployment monitoring or your delivery of your application, but you can also do the same for your infrastructure, which is where all the code which is needed for your deployment as well as your infrastructure can be stored in a Git repository, and anyone who does a change here, automatically in the concept of GitOps, you will be getting your infrastructure updated or your deployment will be updated. So which is where GitOps is more of a concept where whatever the deployment or the automation and infrastructure you want, write it as a code and store it into a repository, and use certain tools that are in the market which will continuously monitor this, and any changes that happens, that will automatically update your Kubernetes cluster or your AWS infrastructure in a pull concept, which is what we call it as GitOps. So this is where now most of the companies, sometime back they were using some tools like Spinnaker, right? Or Rancher. But now all these things are being quite expensive. People are moving towards open source solution, which is where new tools like Flux CD or Argo CD are coming into the picture. So now you don't have to do any work in terms of modifying the code and doing SSH. All you have to do is write a code. Immediately your CI will take it, do the build, generate a Docker image, and do some changes in the configuration or the manifest file and store it back into the Git repository, which will be directly taken by these GitOps tools, and that will deploy it to your orchestration. Okay, so which is how your CI/CD will be working. So which is one of the emerging concept where in organization we are trying to reduce the operations by using the concept of GitOps. But by saying all these things, it is not sufficient for us, because now there might be infrastructure created, but for some point of time, you might have to configure things by yourself, whether you are a developer or a database administrator, right? Now, there might be some upgrades that you need to do within the machine. So this is where, rather than asking someone else like an administrator to do, you can do the configuration of any machine that is under your control, which is where the next concept or a best practice called configuration as code comes in. So what is configuration as a code? There is a machine given to you. You should be able to automate the application startup, stop, or installing an application or upgrading an application, creating folders, or for example, simply copying some certificates to all the machines. So these kind of configuration related activity on an existing set of machine, you can automate, which is where earlier people were using tools like Puppet and Chef, but those are again quite heavy tools to make things simpler and easy. So there are latest tools like Ansible into the market, using which you will be able to quickly do the configuration of a machine, which is where the concept called configuration as a code comes in. But now the next point comes, okay, so you have installed, you have set up, you have automated, but is it not necessary that we also have to monitor? Because DevOps says it is not just that you should be installing something automatically or running something automatically, but it is also necessary, we have to make sure that it is always running, correct? So that is where the continuous monitoring comes. But in continuous monitoring, you might have to monitor a machine, or you might have to monitor an application, or you might also have to monitor a cluster like Kubernetes cluster, or you might also have to monitor a service which is running. So which is where now there are pretty much different kind of tools available, but ideally whatever that we are doing, we need to focus, all of them are going to be on cloud, which is where all the tools that you pick up has to be more of providing a solution towards a cloud native basis, which means it should be more supporting the cloud related work, which is where now when we talk about continuous monitoring, now In the Cloud Native Foundation, which is CNCF, some of the tools which they suggest and most popular tools in the market that you see is Prometheus. And side by side, you'll also have Grafana working hand in hand with Prometheus. So that is where using Prometheus, you will be able to monitor a Kubernetes cluster, or you can also monitor a machine, or you can also monitor an application like Jenkins or SonarQube or Cucumber, and you can also monitor a container or a service, right? So this is how continuous monitoring will be part of a requirement in an organization. And it will not be stopping here, because again, there are again some small best practices that we have, but on top of all those things, security comes in, which is what we call it as DevSecOps. So whether you are maintaining your development or continuous integration, there is a security involved. Same way, now when we are deploying, there has to be a security involved, and we need to make sure that how secure is your environment. So that is where now it is not the same way your Kubernetes cluster will be there. So for different environment, there will be different types of clusters where you need different authentication, which is where things like RBAC in Kubernetes helps you to set up proper authentication. Same way, if you go into cloud, for example, in AWS, how do you ensure the security? So we have concepts like IAM and policies. So that is where on top of all those things, security as a best practice will be coming in. Okay. So now it is necessary that if you are moving towards DevOps, then you should be knowing all of them. But which one to use depends on what is the problem given to you in the organization. So if you just go back to this previous slide and we can compare. So if you are working on any of this, the first two, then your focus will be heavily on continuous development, continuous integration, containerization, and orchestration and GitOps. But if you come towards CloudOps, then you will also be focusing towards infrastructure as a code, and you will also be focusing in continuous monitoring, and you will also focus on configuration as code. But if you're coming from this side, your focus will be heavily on infrastructure as a code, monitoring, and configuration as a code, plus more into your data center management. Okay, so this is how, depending on different problem solving areas, the organizations have divided the roles. But nevertheless, it is not defined exactly as a thumb rule, but instead it's more about the requirement in the company. So it is necessary that if you are moving yourself from a traditional workflow, like rather than working as a dev or a QA or a system admin, now if you know all these best practices, then it is easy for you to understand what are the problems, and in an organization you can provide the expertise of yours by automating it, which is where it is quite necessary that we have
Yeah,
to know all of them. Okay, then now the next question comes is, okay, so now I know that what and all I have to learn, but
Hello,
how
Adam.
is that you are going to learn? Can you please
Sorry
wait?
to interrupt.
I'll answer your questions later. Okay, so here the next thing what happens is, whenever you're going to learn, now this is the biggest mistake that everyone does. So you just go ahead and you say that, okay, I want to get into DevOps, so I will learn Git, I will learn Jenkins, I will learn Kubernetes, done. No, because when you go to a company, the questions will be different, because they are not expecting you to use a tool, but they are expecting you to provide a solution for which a tool will be needed. But there might be different tools also which is available as an alternative. So that is where we should always understand, before we learn a tool, what is this problem solving area? Okay, what are you trying to solve in this best practice, which is the first thing you need to know. And the second thing is, for that, what are the different scenarios in which you can give a solution, because the same tool can be used in different way. So when you're trying to learn something, you need to first take a scenario, and based on that, you have to understand and then try to see what are the different scenarios in which the same tool can be used. Okay, so which is where you need to get deeper into the tools. But before getting into the tools, like I said, once you have the understanding on whether The problem, what you need is solvable, and how it is solvable, whether it is using a single tool or as a combination of a different tool. And then whatever that your tool that you're taking now, it is not going to be just some random tool, because this is what another big mistake which people do is just use some tool, but they don't know how to explain it. So which is where the solution what companies are using is a cloud native solution. So whatever the tools that you're using, it should be more related to the cloud solution, right? So which is where whatever the tools that we are talking about should be more related, or it is being managed by the CNCF, which is the Cloud Native Foundation. And finally, when you are trying to prepare, what we suggest is first, once you know the problem statement, a scenario, and try to choose a tool, then you have to define a project which will be combining everything. So project is not something like you take a command and you run, it's a project. It's about a combination of different things and you're giving a solution for it. Okay. So now if you understand, so the very first thing that we need to know is the concept of agile methodology, which is where how a release is being planned. How does the team track your day-to-day activities, right? How do you prioritize them, which is what we call it as agile. And then in terms of continuous development, so you should be familiarized with tools like Git, because there is a Git client and a Git server, and that is where now you should be knowing both of them. And along with it, there will be concepts like branching, where you need to know for a faster releases, how will the branching look like? For a bug fix, how will the branching look like? So this is how you're going to work. And post this, for continuous integration, now Jenkins or the Jenkins pipeline is what people are using, but slowly it's been moving away from Jenkins to various other tools like GitLab, but still Jenkins is one of the most preferable tool for CI. But along with it, like I said, it is not only about building, but you also have to make sure that there are a lot of quality checks that you have to do by using different set of tools. Now, as we move forward, the next thing is containerization, where you need to know how to create an image and how do we manage that image. And if you give an image, you should also be knowing how to create it as a container and manage. But however, along with it comes the GitOps concept, which is where now for your application, it is going to run in a microservice architecture. So it is not just one small application. There will be many small applications. So how do you put all the dependencies together and create it as a package, which is where the Helm or the Helm charts will be coming into the picture. But along with it, there are many tools available like Flex or Argo CD, using which you can implement the concept of GitOps. But the base for a tool like Argo CD or a Flex CD is your Kubernetes, which is nothing but your Docker images. Okay. And then finally, where is it going to run? So it will be running on a Kubernetes cluster. But as we focus more into Kubernetes, it is also our responsibility to ensure things like log management is available. But in the log management, again, there are different tools, but we need to focus in providing a cloud native solution, which is where one of the popular set of tools that you would be having is EFK, Elasticsearch, Fluentd, and Kibana. Okay. And moving forward, for maintaining or managing all those things, you need an infrastructure, which is where your Terraform will be coming into the picture. So regardless of whether it is an AWS infrastructure or a Azure, you will be able to easily manage. And then how are you going to configure all of them, which is where Ansible will come. But once again, there will be different set of machines, right? So it is not just one machine, there will be multiple machines. So just by using Ansible, you will not be able to manage, because when you go to production, different machines has different password. You have different certificates that you have to upload, and you have to give different kind of configurations. So how are you going to manage everything? So Ansible is more of a command line tool. But this is where now, along with Ansible, there is another tool called Ansible Tower, which is more like a UI for it. So using this, you can maintain a production grade machines. And finally comes your continuous monitoring. So like I said, now our interest is not just to monitor a machine, but to monitor a machine or a service or a cluster. So that's where the cloud native solution would be to use Prometheus and Grafana. And when you say that you're going to learn all of them, It is equally important that you should know that all of them will be running on any one of the cloud. So preferably, let's say AWS will be the cloud. So this is how you should be starting to learn the different areas. Now, we can say that, hey, why should I learn? But the whole problem, like you go to a restaurant. Now, what happens in a restaurant? Now, have you seen nowadays to promote the market, what do they do? So they keep every dish in front of you, right? As soon as you go inside the restaurant, you would be getting a chance to see everything. Even though your interest is to have any one of the food, but you have choice of seeing everything and then you choose it. The same way, when you are trying to switch your profile, rather than saying that, hey, I know only this or I have worked only this, but if you know end to end, which is required for a DevOps implementation in an organization, your value will also be added. May not be you will be working on everything, but on a time, if a company is looking at the automation, if you have knowledge on this, it will be helpful. Or someone else will be working, but you need to collaborate and work with them, for which if you have the knowledge on all these problem solving areas, then it will be a added value to you. Okay, so this is how, finally, for those who are even asking on, what is the course or how do we take it, whatever that I've been explaining is what now we give it to you as a DevOps curriculum. So it's quite necessary that you should be knowing all these things, which is where we will be going through all the tools. But it is not completely possible that we will be able to go through each and everything right from basics. But what we do is we divide it into two phases. One is the foundation and the other one is specialization. So a foundation is all about learning the basic things which is needed, or the fundamental things like Linux, scripting, Git, and Maven. And this is pretty much again available in your YouTube channel, so that you can go ahead and learn this basics. And with the help of this, we'll be jumping into all the other most important things which is being asked in the market. So that's how. Keep yourself latest and try to understand what is the requirement of the organization. And based on this, if you focus, it will be easy for you to crack your interviews and get into a good profile. Okay. So pretty much that's what I had for this session. So for anyone who has doubt, please stay back so that I'll be opening this for QA and A. And for others, like I said, go back to our channel and pretty much there's plenty of videos for you to kickstart and practice. Okay, so that's what I had for now. Thank you.